Today's learning target is I can use scientific notation. Today we're going to learn how to write numbers in scientific notation. Scientific notation is a way that we can write really big or really small numbers. And down here are three examples of numbers written in scientific notation. So there are two parts to a number written in scientific notation. The first part is going to be, you're going to start with a number that's equal to at least 1 but less than 10. So we can see the first part of this scientific notation, we have the number 2.16. It's at least 1 but it's less than 10. Same thing here. In the first part, the number is at least 1 but it's less than 10. Same thing here. Number's at least 1 but less than 10. And the second part of scientific notation is you're going to have a power of 10. So here we have 10 to the fourth power. So that would be 10 times itself 4 times. Here we have 10 to the third power. Okay, here we have 10 to the negative fifth power. We'll talk about what that means in a second. In today's assignment, you're going to be asked to express numbers in standard form. So here we have a number that's written in scientific notation. First number is 1 or greater, but less than 10. And then we have a power of 10. So let's first look at what this problem actually means. So we have 2.16 times 10 to the fifth power. So if we have 2.16 times 10 to the fifth power, this is what this problem actually looks like. It's 2.16 times 10 5 times, because that's what 10 to the fifth power means. Now I know that anytime I times a number by 10, I just move the decimal one place to the right. So that makes sense that if I'm multiplying a number by 5 tens, I'm going to move my decimal 5 places to the right. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I fill in my zeros there. So my number here becomes 216000, and I place the comma after the every third digit, so 1, 2, 3, a comma belongs right there. So I have 216,000 is how I'd write this in standard form. Let's look at one more problem here. I have 3.201 times 10 to the third. So I think to myself, I'm timesing this number here 10 by 10 3 times. So that makes sense that I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2, 3. So I just show where I'm moving. My decimal ends up right here. So I get 3,201. Now let's take a look at what it means when we have scientific notation where it's a negative power, like this. So this is what this problem actually looks like if we write it out. So we have 5.8, and the negative 3, the power to the negative third, doesn't mean we're dealing with a negative number. What it means is we have 1/10 3 times, okay? So if we times by 1/10, that's really the same as dividing by 10 3 times, okay? And we know that when we divide by 10, we're going to move the decimal to the left because our number is going to get smaller. So our 5.8, we divide it by 10 3 times, becomes 1, 2, 3. My decimal ends up right here. I put in my zeros for my placeholders, so I get decimal 0058. So let's look at one more example here. So we have 9 times 10 to the negative fifth power. So the exponent negative 5 means I'm going to be dividing this number right here by 10 5 times. And I know each time I divide by 10, I move the decimal one place to the left. So I'm going to have to do it 5 times. So my number, I always like to write it out like this. You should do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put your decimal right there. Put your placeholders in. Okay, now this becomes 0.00009, and we don't need the 0 at the end because it's a decimal number. So in today's lesson, we're going to be asked to express or write a number in scientific notation. So remember, to do that, we have to start with a number that's at least 1 and less than 10, and we need to have a power of 10. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at my number here and figure out where would I place the decimal so that I have a number that's at least 1 but less than 10, right? So like, let's say for example I put it right here. I put the decimal there. Now it becomes 145.7000. Okay, I got to have a number that's less than 10. Well, if I place the decimal right here, Okay, so if I were to put it right here, now I have one whole, right, 1.457, and that number is at least 1, but it's less than 10. So that number becomes 1.457, and I leave those zeros off on this because the zeros are after the decimal there. Okay, and now I figure out how many places did I move the decimal to the right. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means I timesed it by 10 6 times because I moved it to the right 6 times. So it becomes 10 to the 6th power. So let's look at one more example here. We're going to write this number in scientific notation. The first thing you should do is write out the number and then figure out where do I have to place my decimal so I have a number that's at least 1 but less than 10. So let's see, if I place it right here, I'm going to get 7.62. Okay, and of course I'd leave those zeros off because that number is at least 1 but less than 10. Okay, so now I'm going to place that that decimal, right there. And now let's see, how many places do I move it to the right? So I'll actually go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so decimal ends up right there. I would go 10 to the 6th power. So if I took 7.62 and I timesed it by 10 6 times, it would give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this number right there. So if I have a decimal number like this that I want to write in scientific notation, okay, I'm going to do the same thing, except now I'm going to move the decimal to the left. Okay, so we still have to start with finding a number at least 1 and less than 10. Okay, so if I were to place this decimal right here between the 6 and the 1, I'm going to get 6.12. That number is at least 1, but it's less than 10. So I'm going to place the decimal right here, and now I'm going to move the decimal to the left. Every time I do that, my number is getting smaller, right? So I'm dividing it by 10 and another 10. That's 2, 3, 4. So I divided it by 10 4 times. So this would be then 10, and if you remember, when we have a negative to the negative 4th power, that means we're going to divide by 10 4 times. Let's look at one last example here. Okay, so I start off and I write out the number, and then I look and see where can I place this decimal. So I get a number at least 1 and less than 10. I could place it right here. That would give me 9.2. So I'm going to place the decimal right here, and now I want to figure out how many places am I going to the left or dividing by 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I go until I get to the decimal. So I have 9.2, which is that right here, and I divided it by 10 5 times. So it looks like that, 9.2 times 10 to the negative 5th power.